One of the guys who literally helped build Google just quit, and 3 other top AI researchers are leaving with him at the exact same time. Google is changing who actually runs DeepMind day to day. Yeah, we need to talk about what's happening inside Google AI right now, because this is a big one. Jeff Dean is leaving Google, and if you don't know that name, you should. This isn't some random executive getting shuffled around. Jeff Dean joined Google all the way back in 1999, 27 years ago. He was one of Google's earliest employees, and he helped build some of the core infrastructure that allowed Google to become what it is today. We're talking about systems behind Google Search, MapReduce, Bigtable, TensorFlow, Google Brain, and eventually a massive part of Google's modern artificial intelligence operation. The guy is basically Google royalty. And now he's gone. But here's where this gets really interesting. Jeff Dean isn't leaving by himself. He's teaming up with Sanjay Ghemawat, Quoc, and Oriol Vinyals, 4 extremely important Google and DeepMind researchers, and they're starting a completely new AI company called Discovery Loop. Now, just to put this into perspective, Sanjay Ghemawat worked with Jeff Dean on some of Google's most important distributed computing systems. Quoc was one of the people behind Google Brain. Oriol Vinyals has been deeply involved in some of DeepMind's major AI research. So this isn't 4 random employees leaving Google to make another AI wrapper. This is an absolutely ridiculous amount of technical talent walking out the door at the same time. And what they're building might be even more interesting. Discovery Loop wants to use artificial intelligence to accelerate scientific and engineering discovery. Basically, imagine an AI system that doesn't just answer questions. It comes up with an idea, runs an experiment, looks at the result, learns from it, changes the experiment, and then does it again and again and again and again. Thousands of times. The company says it wants to start with machine learning research and eventually expand into areas like hardware, biology, and drug discovery. Basically, they want AI to start helping automate the scientific discovery process itself. That's a massive goal. But here's the part that really caught my attention. Alphabet is investing in it. Yes. Google's own parent company is backing the company that some of Google's most important researchers are leaving to build. Alphabet is also becoming a cloud partner for Discovery Loop. Think about how weird that is for a second. Google clearly understands how valuable these people are. They understand how important this company could potentially become, but instead of building Discovery Loop inside Google, these guys are building it outside Google, and Alphabet is investing in them anyway. That alone is interesting. But then you look at what's happening with Demis Hassabis at the exact same time. Demis Hassabis is stepping away from running Google DeepMind day to day. Now, I want to be very clear here because I know how the internet works. Demis is not leaving Google. This isn't another resignation. He's moving up into a different role. He'll become chairman of Google DeepMind and chief scientist of Alphabet, giving him more time to focus on long-term research, science, and AGI. So Google can absolutely frame that as a promotion, and technically it is. But operationally, someone else is now running the machine. Koray, DeepMind's longtime CTO and Google's chief AI architect, is taking over the day-to-day operation, and that means the organization responsible for Google's frontier AI research, Gemini, and a huge amount of Google AI future is going through a pretty major leadership change. So put these 2 stories together. Demis Hassabis is stepping away from the day-to-day operation of DeepMind. Jeff Dean is leaving after 27 years. Sanjay Ghemawat is leaving. Quoc is leaving. Oriol Vinyals is leaving. And those 4 are launching an entirely new AI company together. I'm sorry, you can call that a normal leadership transition if you want. I'm paying attention. Now, here's where I'll separate the facts from my opinion. I use these models, I use them for coding, I use them for research, I follow basically every major model release, and right now, Google still does not feel like the company setting the pace. That does not mean Gemini is trash. It's not. Google has some incredible models. They have ridiculous infrastructure. They have TPS. They have data. They have billions of users. They own Android. They own YouTube. They have Google Search. They have Google Cloud. And they have some of the best AI researchers on planet Earth. On paper, Google should be terrifying. But when I'm actually using these systems every day, especially for coding and more agentic workflows, OpenAI and Anthropic have felt more aggressive to me. They ship fast, they iterate fast, and they have been putting serious pressure on Google, especially when it comes to developers and enterprise AI. And this is why these leadership changes matter, because there are 2 completely different ways you can look at what's happening. The first possibility, this is exactly what Google needs. Maybe Demis Hassabis shouldn't be spending his time dealing with the everyday operation of an enormous organization. Maybe Google wants him thinking 5 or 10 years ahead, thinking about AGI science. The next major breakthrough? And maybe putting Koray in charge of execution allows Google to move faster. That's a completely legitimate argument. Google might come out of this stronger, but there's another possibility, and this is the one I'm watching. Google became one of the most important technology companies in history because people like Jeff Dean and Sanjay Ghemawat built things nobody else had built before. These aren't just managers, these are builders. So when Jeff Dean, Sanjay Ghemawat, Quoc, and Oriol Vinyals all decide that the next thing they want to build should happen outside Google, I think that matters. Talent movement doesn't tell you everything about a company, but it tells you something, especially when we're talking about people at this level. And Discovery Loop might now become one of the most interesting AI companies to watch, because look at that founding team. These aren't 4 guys who downloaded Cursor 6 months ago and decided to put AI founder in their Twitter bio. These are people who helped build foundational pieces of modern computing and artificial intelligence. That's a very different situation. Now, do I think Google is cooked? No, absolutely not. Google has way too much money, way too much compute, way too much infrastructure, way too much distribution, and way too much talent for me to sit here and tell you Google is somehow finished. That would be ridiculous. But do I think this is a warning sign? Yeah, I do, because Google is restructuring the leadership of arguably the most important division inside the entire company, while some of the people responsible for building Google's technical foundation are walking out the door to build something new. And those two things are happening at the exact same time. That's worth watching. So the bigger question isn't whether Google survives. Obviously, Google survives. The real question is this: can Google become the company setting the pace in AI again? Or are some of the people who would have helped them do it starting to realize they'd rather build somewhere else? Because if Discovery Loop actually works, Google might eventually look back at this moment very differently. Personally, I'm going to be watching this company closely, and I'm definitely going to be watching what happens inside DeepMind under the new leadership, because the AI race is moving ridiculously fast right now. OpenAI isn't slowing down, Anthropic isn't slowing down, new models are dropping constantly, new coding agents are showing up every week, and Google doesn't have the luxury of moving slowly, not anymore. So tell me what you think. Is this actually a good move for Google? Does putting Demis Hassabis on the long-term science and AGI side make Google stronger? Or are Jeff Dean and these researchers leaving the beginning of a much bigger talent problem? Let me know in the comments. And if you want to stay ahead of what's happening with AI, new models, coding tools, agents, and all of these companies fighting for the top spot, hit subscribe. Because right now, there's something new happening basically every single day. Have an amazing day. I'll see you in the next one.